Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, and welcome to China, who has kindly come on as a guest to talk about her journey as a bodybuilder, and we'll potentially delve into lots of things from where you started out and what you've done in the past. But I do need to put you on the spot a little bit, but in a really good way.
Okay.
My sister-in-law, Zara, she listens to the pod. She is your ultimate fan.
Thank
And
you.
I
Thank you so much.
well, for sure, like it was really nice because she showed me your Instagram and she was like, look at this girl. And she's actually in the sort of space where she's like, do I compete one day? And me and Matt, her brother, have said sort of she'd be made for figure, her, where she's at and her body composition. And then, she was like, look at this girl. And even like, she was like, she's got 2 dogs. And all the coolest people have dogs, right?
Yeah.
And it was really cool to sort of stumble across your page. And then, of course, having Rob on the pod, and you work with Rob, who's a mindset coach. And what he does is super, super cool. So I knew that you would be the vibe for the pod. So
thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, yeah, it is this sport as well. I'm sure you all agree. It's so nice to share what we learn as competitors through our whole journey.
100%. Yeah.
Because we all start somewhere, don't we,
Yeah, definitely. I think like a lot of people go into bodybuilding, including me, very naively. Very like you're so naive. You just think like it's getting up on stage, standing in a sparkly bikini and doing a bit of an Ibiza diet. And it's
100%.
it's not that.
Yeah.
Like it's like just so not that. And I think having podcasts, talking to people who've done it and been there, it's so for me, it would have been so valuable to listen to more stuff like that, definitely, to have a bit more of a bit less of a naive understanding of it, like to begin with.
Yeah.
Because it's an extreme sport, bodybuilding. People don't think of it like that. Like people think of it, it's just like it's like a fashion show, and it's a glamour model thing, but it's just so not. It's a very extreme sport. It's important for people to understand that before they decide to step on stage,
Yeah. It's even, I actually saw one of your posts that Zara and I looked at where you've done a session with Emma for posing.
Yeah.
And you sort of said it's something that I need to do more of. And I think
100%.
Yeah, it's definitely though something
Yeah.
people would potentially look at your physique and go, fucking hell, she has got a sick physique. And I am one of these people. And then for you to then go, well, actually, this is something that I need to put more energy in. It's been the truths behind bodybuilding, and it's not all comfortable,
No, 100%. And I'm not someone at all like who is, I might appear confident, but I'm definitely not an innately confident individual, and I'm not a showy person, never have been. And I find posing really hard. In fact, for me, like bodybuilding and stepping on stage is just, it's like a side effect of training, because I love training. That's where my love of bodybuilding came from. It's just a byproduct of it, So posing is something I neglected in my off season because I was just like, you think, oh, stage is so far away, I don't need to do it. And then I went for a posing session. I was like, oh my God, like I really need to prioritize this, because everybody does it. You don't prioritize things you don't like.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, I'll just do it later. But then just do it. If you're thinking about, if you don't like posing, just do it, because it will just click one day, and you've just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And some people have got natural sass and some people don't. And if you don't, you've got to learn it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, because like when we step on stage, I'm not naturally that way either. It's almost like you step into sometimes like a different person for that
alter ego. Yeah, definitely.
And of course, Emma hammers it home as well. She's been on the pod about you do all of this work in off season, in prep. If you can't exhibit it, you're not going to.
Yeah, it is pointless. And I do think, even though that deep down, like I just kept putting it to the back of my mind, being like, focus on training. But you do, like, especially, well, at any level, but especially at the top level, they can pose.
Yeah, I know.
They can pose, and the people who look great on stage are the people who own the stage. and you've got to have that confidence and that sass to be able to own the stage. So trust me when I say I've been practicing posing since that posing session.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so stiff as well because I hadn't been prioritizing flexibility.
Yeah.
You're putting on a lot of muscle in a short space of time. And I'm just like, I was just this dense block. So I'm now prioritizing flexibility and posing. And I think everyone should do that. I know bodybuilding is an accumulation of so many different aspects, but you can't neglect any of them because if you do, it'll catch up with you.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'd agree in off season it does become harder in regards to you can't really see, what's underneath that, and that can then become almost like a negative. You think, well, I don't look like I'm going to on stage, I won't do the posing.
Yeah. It's about taking that, trying to not fixate on what you actually look like though. And that is something that and in fact, I did loads of work with Rob about this, about body image and bodybuilding. And you've got to just not focus on what you actually look like and just go through the motions of practicing posing and just not fixate on like if you don't like your stomach or you don't like your bum or whatever, because that's not the end result. It's a process, and we're going to change in weight all the time, and you're probably going to feel uncomfortable in your off season because if you didn't, you're probably not going to make any progress.
Very good point.
Yeah, so you just got to not fixate on it and just do it.
Yeah, because Rob spoke about this on the pod I did with him last, actually. He said, you're an athlete and you've got to embrace the extreme versions of each phase.
Yeah, that's something because I really struggled with when I came out of my no, I lie. I struggled with the way I looked, like being muscular for quite a long time.
Yep.
People do look at you because you look different, you know. But then Rob literally said those words to me. You are an athlete, and that stuck with me. Like it's like it's when like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Like if you look like everyone else, you won't be a bodybuilder. So it was a massive light bulb moment for me. And I've spoke to like some of my clients about that as well, about how you do need to push those extremes of weights to be able to see change. Otherwise, you won't be in this game. You just look like everyone else.
Yeah, for sure. And it's almost easier when you're in a gym environment, isn't it? Because you're lifting weights, you're buzzing from training. It sounds like that's a real big part of why you are a bodybuilder. And then, it's in walks of normal life where you think, what are people going to think of me?
I know. That's exactly how I felt because I was like, I used to say to Rob, like, I feel fine when I'm in the gym. I feel good. But then like when I'm going out or like I feel like uncomfortable with the way I look.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like a bigger thing that helped me overcome that was like, and my partner as well, he was like to me, just wear what you want and own it.
Yeah.
And like when you start taking the steps to just make yourself do it, and kind of overcoming those barriers rather than covering yourself up all the time. You should own your physique because you've worked so hard for it at whatever stage you're in, and you still look great anyway.
I know. It's like I sometimes have that recollection of people say to me, even when I'm in the height of off season, I'd love to have a body like yours, and I'm like, what do you mean? And from a normal point of view, I think a lot of people would go, oh, I'd love to look like that, but we're always thinking, oh well, no, I don't look that good. And
because you're in like a physique based sport where you're so critiqued for the way you look 24/7, you become so overcritical of everything. Don't matter whether you're like back end of prep or peak off season, we're never satisfied, and that's a good thing. But it's also like a terrible thing as well. It's about being proud of where you are, but wanting to improve each and every whatever season that you're in. And owning that period.
Like you say, with off season, it's something I speak about a hell of a lot on the podcast about, embracing that phase for what it is. You can't gain quality muscle tissue without gaining fat as well. And if you want to progress your physique, you go to the extreme of being uncomfortable in that phase to then when you go back to stage, okay, so this athlete has progressed rather than looking the same.
Yes, like trying to, I don't know, switch your mindset to be grateful for what you've got at that moment in time. So like, in prep, you might look sick, right? But you can't go out for food. You feel like shit and you're not sleeping. Like at least now, like you can go out, you've got time on your hands. You can go out for off-plan meals if you have them. Like you feel great. just own it and be grateful for that period in time rather than being so critical of yourself, because no one really cares what you look like, you know.
Good point.
It is like, you know, and it takes time though for people. I do think like for new competitors, when you come out of that
Oh,
first prep,
mental.
there's nothing you
Yeah.
can do to, you've just got to like force those good thoughts and the way that you talk to yourself.
Yeah, because of course, like you touched on earlier about it being an extreme sport, get into stage condition. You know, if you truly dig to that
Yeah.
position, especially for categories like yours, you know,
Mhm.
it's not, you can't hang out in that spot. Okay, you might have a back-to-back show or what have you,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you've got to reverse out as soon as you can.
Yeah, because it's so unhealthy, and you'll feel better for it as well. Like this prep that I did, so my first ever prep I did in 2019, he
Yep.
reversed me like really slowly out of my show,
Yeah.
and I felt terrible for ages. This prep, like, don't get me wrong, I still didn't feel great, but Cal like put my food straight up, like straight back up to maintenance, quite high. Obviously, I needed to gain weight because I was so lean, but I felt so much better so quickly.
Yeah.
Like, and okay, like you probably gain a bit of unnecessary body fat, but it's not the end of the world if you feel better, like
Yeah.
about it.
The priority is health, isn't it?
It is, and I think if you felt dire for ages as well, it's about getting your head back on and health and I don't know, just feeling better in all aspects because it isn't sustainable, that look.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's also not that attractive. I think when you actually look back at checking photos of yourself, you're like, no,
But
those striated glutes aren't the one.
it was so funny. In my last prep, my other
Mm.
half was like, "You've got striated cheeks. What is wrong with you?" It's like, but it fuels that fire. You know what it's like in a prep. You're digging and digging and digging,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're so tunnel vision, like you say. You're not
Mm.
doing like social
Yeah,
things. You're not going out to eat. Da,
yeah,
da, da.
yeah.
And then you get to a point where you probably would be quite happy, and then you go, "But I could probably push a little bit more."
A bit more. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think
then you're
about
in.
like the 8, 10 week out mark, you look great. And then like any further on, then you just look like death.
And everyone's like, "Are you okay?" No,
Yeah,
not
I know.
really.
I know. So like I'm a dentist, right? So I see
Okay.
people like every 6 months. So like they'll, like for a checkup, and then they'll see me like back end of prep, and then they'll see me 6 months later, and then they're like, I had China last time. Like I am China, just like 12
Oh
kilos.
my God, that's hilarious.
I know, it's terrible.
And people
But
say, "You look so much better now."
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So are you ill? I'm like, no, I'm doing this to myself out of choice.
Yeah, I mean, I am. There's different camps with that, isn't there? I do say, for me, this sport is a choice, and I feel very privileged to be able to do it. Now,
Yeah.
I know that some people are like, "Oh, you can't just say it's a choice, what have you?" And I know sometimes you do have days where you've got to go to your partner or whatever. I feel like shit. Fine,
Yeah, yeah.
but if I'm sure Rob's spoken to you about this. If you wallow in that too much, then
Yeah.
it becomes this like you are choosing to do this. Maybe it's not the right sport for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that is important, especially in prep, because
Yeah,
it is hard. There's no getting about it. It is, especially if you're getting really, really lean, it is incredibly difficult and you're not going to feel great. And it's going to be more than likely one of the hardest things you've ever done in your life.
yeah,
That's where that positive mindset does come in. And you have to realize that we are lucky to be able to do this. Most people can't do it. We have access to a gym. We've got time to do all this and we can finance it all.
yeah,
You know, a lot of people wouldn't be able to do that.
yeah.
And, so it's hard because when you feel like death, but it is important to remember stuff like that to keep pushing through and to keep getting to your goal.
Yeah, for sure. So when you started your journey, have you always been into sports or were you completely new to this when you started bodybuilding?
So, as a kid, I did sport, yeah. So I did high level competitive sport like in my late teens.
Okay.
I skied for Great Britain, like
Oh, wow.
yeah, downhill skied for Great Britain. And I did gymnastics at like a national level. So I was like British champion gymnast as well.
Wow.
So I've from a sporting background. So I'm like used to kind of kind of like dedication and discipline way of life, you know.
Yeah.
Didn't do any sport when I was at uni, didn't do any sport for years after that. So I stopped that when I was 18. And then I started bodybuilding. So I'm 31 now. I started bodybuilding in 2019. I started going to the gym in 2019.
Oh
And
wow.
then this guy in the gym was like to me, you should compete. And I didn't know anything. So I signed up to a show and did it. And that's how it started.
No way.
Yeah, that's how it started. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. So had you
Yeah.
been to like watch a show or anything first, or you
No,
just
no. I had
love that?
no, when I tell you I had no idea, and I wouldn't recommend anyone else to do this, I had no idea. What I needed was at the time, like I was struggling a little bit with my mental health at the time. And I was like, I need a goal. I'm like a very I'm a very like I was a very like what's next person.
Yeah.
And I needed something. Like I just moved home, I just bought a house, I just started a new job. I didn't feel like I had anything to work towards.
Yeah.
So I signed up to a show and I had like 12 weeks. Honestly, I had no clue. And I went on holiday in the middle of
I
it.
love that.
Honestly, but I somehow I won. I don't know how. And then after that, I kind of fell in love with bodybuilding, actually, you know. It was more then I fell in love with training and everything that came with it. Whereas prior to that, it was more like, I need to sort my shit out. And in my head, it was like a way that I could try and sort my head out. And I know that's wrong now in retrospect, but that's what I told myself at the time. Like, that if I can do this, then I've sorted my head out kind of thing.
Yeah, it certainly gives. I can relate completely. Like I funneled
Yeah.
a lot of unhappiness into my, most of
100%.
my bodybuilding journey. Like
Yeah.
it was so much shit going on outside of that. It gave me something to go, I can be really good at this through my own effort.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it
I
just,
used it as like a therapy. Like
yeah,
to me, it was like it was just my like little outlet. But on the flip side of that, what I've realized so it was like I used to say to people like training is my bottle of wine.
yeah,
That's what I used to say, right? But what I'd realized like this year when I prep this year is that if you're doing a prep, right, when you get to the depths of prep, like, and you're really digging, I think if you're utilizing training as your therapy, that will go. And I think any demons that you haven't dealt with are going to come back
for
in
sure.
prep.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was like a blanket, you know, for me, training. I think it is for a lot of people as well
Yeah.
when you open up about it. So that's kind of why I started working with Rob after.
Yeah, I think
Um,
a lot of people will relate to this. In life, we do go through challenges and certain scenarios, and I
yeah,
think sometimes you don't realize how unhappy you can be, and you find vices like we found
yeah,
competing, and then
yeah, yeah,
prep definitely, like you described there. I find that because you're literally, you're in essence you're starving yourself till you get to stage.
yeah.
You're
Mhm.
sort of forced to deal with feelings and thoughts that maybe aren't there when you're, living your best life. You
Definitely.
think you're living your best life.
Yeah, I think like if you're using it, because like for me, it was like training was like that release. But when you get to the back end of prep and training is so hard,
Yeah,
and instead of being a release, it's just a massive stressor, then it's like, how do you deal with all the other stresses now your kind of bottle of wine's gone away?
yeah,
Do
yeah,
you get me? And then I think that's important for people to understand the extremes of prep.
yeah,
Um, and actually dealing with whatever's going on in here before you enter something like that,
yeah.
because if you're anything like me, it will unearth stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's hard for it not to as such because
definitely.
you do, like you said there, visit dark places and
Yeah,
you sort of, I guess every prep I've done, you're like assessing, is my life where I want it to be? What needs to,
yeah. Yeah,
and then I find that I'm much more brutal in the prep to go, actually, I'm gonna make a change. I don't fucking care what the outcome is.
yeah. Yeah, I
Like,
can understand that. I think sometimes just all you're bothered about at some point is prep, and then like everything else just goes out the window, doesn't it? And you're like, I don't care. I
yeah.
don't care, I'm just prepping. Like,
Then off the back of a show, you're like, whoa, did that just happen?
yeah, I know.
So when you
I
did
know.
your first show, so you said you won, I
Yeah,
guess.
I did a PCA first timers, tone figure,
Yeah.
and I won somehow. And then I did the finals and came second in the same year,
So that
2 years
fueled your
later.
sort of fire to then. Did you go into a nice productive off season before you then stepped on stage again?
Um, at the time I was with a coach, but I wasn't like, it was just a lad from the gym.
Yep.
Like it was everything you probably shouldn't do, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So just a guy from the gym. And I say it, I didn't really, yeah, he did do my training and my food, but I think now I've moved over to Cal.
Yep.
I now know the difference between like a bit of coaching and, top level coaching, really.
Yep.
So I did a lit what a bit of an off season with him. Then COVID hit.
Ah.
So when COVID hit, I didn't do anything. Well, I had a bit of kit at home, but I didn't have a coach.
Yep.
And then in what are we now, 23? In 2020, when was COVID? I can't remember
Like
now.
I think it was like
2020.
2019. Yeah, 20.
2019, 2020. I think in mid 2020, I started with Carl.
Yep.
Yeah, mid 2020, I started with Carl, did about 12-month off season with Carl,
Nice.
and then did a 15, 16 months off season, sorry, with Carl. And then I did two bros.
Mm, yeah.
And I did the two bros MK Classic and I won the overall. And then I turned pro in Finland a week later.
I bet it's so surreal still, isn't it?
It is because it was like a very quick journey.
Yeah.
And I placed fourth in the pro show as well.
Which is crazy.
I know. Yeah. So my journey's like not probably been a standard one.
Yeah.
I haven't competed that many times. I
Mm,
compete like what, 4 times.
mm,
Um, so yeah, it's been a whirlwind really to get my head around, to be
sure.
honest.
And
Yeah.
with off season, so that's good actually that you gave the example of doing it longer than, some people would, having that
Yeah.
like 15, 16 months. How did you find that in a bit like we were speaking about earlier, body image and stuff? Did you find that quite hard to push up?
Initial that first time, yeah.
Yeah.
But at like my partner, Ali, who he's also a coach, he was like super, super supportive of it. And I think for me, that massively helped that someone was like, literally like, eat your food. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think having that reassurance, it detracted from my body image a lot. Yes, obviously, I found it hard. Like, I think, and this time I haven't found it as hard, but each time you get into a new off season, you look better. So it is easier. And I think your mindset is better because you've been through it before. But it is hard. There's no getting about it. It's hard. But you've got big goals. You've got to push big boundaries. You've got to push things with yourself. And like I said before, just trying to appreciate all the things that off season offers to you and get strong in the gym, fall in love with being really strong.
Yeah.
And like I love being strong and I love training.
Mm.
I think if you can in your off season switch your mindset to be like, I love getting strong. I love how much progress I'm making, you know, then
Mm.
that will help you so much more than if you're just constantly looking at your physique all the time.
Yeah, because it's what's when you step on stage again, it's the hard work now that you do in the off season
Definitely.
that shows.
That's
Because
how I made all my progress. Genuinely was just like training like an animal, not leaving anything on the gym floor and eating my food
yeah,
and not being scared to eat food and not being
that,
scared to push food up.
yeah, it is definitely probably maybe more for females, men as well. But I find that I speak to a lot of females that embracing more food is very difficult for a lot of people.
It is, yeah, it is. I mean, my food, to be fair, my food never got super, super high.
Yeah.
Um, but I just try and embrace like having the odd snack here and there. Like if I want something, I'll have it, you
It's so
know?
normal.
I'm not dead militant.
Yeah,
I'm not really militant. And because you can in off season and enjoying that and enjoying going for your off plan meals and just switching that mindset to being really strong is the best thing you can do as well.
yeah,
Because the stuff that you can do in your off season, you can't often do in prep, you know? So just push it and push, leave nothing on the gym floor and just push your strength and try and train like an animal each and every session. because
And
you'll
it
grow.
is, yeah, and it's amazing
Thanks, you'll grow.
how
Yeah.
healthier, how much healthier you feel.
You do, yeah, exactly. How much healthier you feeling in a prep. But
Mm,
that's how you will put on a substantial amount of tissue is by taking a massive off season.
yeah, yeah. What is that your plan now to do a longer?
No, so well, it was. I was going to compete next year. And then I went up to see Cal, and then Cal was like, I think we'll compete in October. And I was like, okay, thank you for the heads up. But yeah, no, so I'm competing in October now. A
Oh,
proper pro debut because I don't really class my first one as a pro debut because I literally won my pro card, came off stage, then they took me back on in the pro show. I literally, my head had fell off. My head completely fell off. So this is my proper pro debut in October. Yeah,
so how long is your prep going to be this time? Do you know?
20 weeks.
Okay, so a
20
little
weeks.
bit longer than before, or
No,
is it
it was my last one was 20 weeks as well. Why it's 20 weeks, I don't know. I haven't asked. I just
just
say
good?
yes and do it. But yeah, 20 weeks.
And that's
Um,
the joy of trusting your coach, isn't it?
yeah.
Something that is so valuable. When you're being coached, your coach, hopefully, if it's a good coach, is has got your goals at heart, and they're not going to tell you to do something unless it's beneficial for you.
No. No, I mean, I trust Cal like 110%. He's to me is the perfect coach for me because he's just so I don't know, he's like so calm and he's just exactly what I need from a coach. But yeah, he was great in my last prep. Probably the only person who could deal with me.
It's so funny, isn't it? When you look back, you're like, bloody hell, I was a bit of a
Yeah. I know, I know. But yeah, 20 weeks and then I'm doing November as well. If we compete in October and I'm miles away, which hopefully I'm not, but if I am, then we'll go back to the drawing board. If not, we will do Romania as well in November.
Okay, so there's sort of be how long's in between each show?
I think it's like a month.
Oh,
One in October, one in November.
so you got to
Yeah.
hang out in that little bit of a like.
That weird phase of yeah, I know.
It's a
I know.
strange feeling. Like you think, oh, I can carry on, and then you're like, whoa, like
Yeah.
4 weeks feels long.
It is, yeah. I
Mm.
mean, there's not actually that many pro shows like the back end of the year around Europe. So I wasn't really ready to prep any sooner than that. So there's like three. So there's like Budapest, Romania, and Prague, which is like October, November. That's the only ones really. So that's why I picked them.
It's
And
pretty cool
then,
as well to move around, like not just do UK based if you can be a bit more international.
yeah, I know. So what I am looking forward to and a little bit nervous about is they are like massive stages. And before, like I've only ever been on a little stage. I joked to my friend the other day, I was like, the stages that I've been on before are like a school nativity, and these are like a Beyonce concert. They are though. I was watching them on YouTube and I was like, oh my God, it's like a Beyonce concert. I bet
I'm
it
gonna be there.
yeah, I know, I know. But I'm looking forward to it and actually enjoying a prep because last time I put so much pressure on myself because I wanted that pro card so bad that I didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I remember someone saying that to me at the start of my prep was like, if I give one you piece of advice, enjoy it. And I look back to that advice now, it's like I wish I'd listened because there's so much I wasn't present for, you know, and I wasn't grateful for at the time because I was just so stressed and to get that goal
Yeah.
that this time I'm like, of all the things I want to achieve from this prep, obviously I want to do well, but I want to enjoy the prep.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've got a supportive partner as well, because that is a night and day difference, isn't it?
Massive, massive yeah. Like I think that's so, so important because I think that can either make or break you,
Yeah.
definitely. So yeah, I'm
And do
excited.
you have friends and people around you that are really supportive as well?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think in the past like 12, 18 months I've developed a better, bodybuilding network because before that I was very much I wasn't really in the bodybuilding world at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's nice now to be around more like-minded people.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
How did you sort of bridge that gap? Did you start going to like meetups and stuff, or was it just through?
I think meeting that's just like Ali, my partner Ali, like he's been in bodybuilding for a long time. He's a coach. And
Okay.
I think just through being with him, it introduced me to more people. But yeah. I still like I'm like still like one of the people I still train on my own and stuff like that because I'm quite militant with my training, but
I feel you.
I'm definitely more sociable than I was.
It's funny, isn't it? It's like we touched on this before we hit record. Bodybuilding is like a really solo journey, and you sort of you
Yeah.
become so like for us, training hard is like our comfort zone, which
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
definitely.
for like Gen Pop people, they'd be like, how do you train 5 days a week? And we're like, how do you not train 5 days a week?
I know, I
But then it's
know.
like going out your comfort zone in other ways. And again, like we spoke about, stepping on stage, people automatically think you're like this sassy, confident person. And it's like, it's not really me.
No, it's not. It's definitely something you need to practice. And I also think being more involved in, if you're like only just coming into the bodybuilding world, I think trying to get involved with more the bodybuilding world will really help you evolve as a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Because it like normalizes what you do a
Yeah.
lot, doesn't it? And I think that's something, especially with the body image thing as well, going back to that.
Yeah.
If you're with around people all the time that are going through the same thing, it makes it so much easier.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
whereas if you're just with like all the people at work who don't even train and all they do is go out on a weekend, they don't get it.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah,
doesn't matter what you tell them.
no, I think immersing yourself in that world really will help you evolve your mindset and evolve you as a bodybuilder as well.
Yeah, because if you do have, it sounds like you've got big ambitions with what you want to do with the sport. You know,
Yeah,
you can't sit at periods where you're just sort of going along pacing yourself. You
yeah,
got to push up, you got to push that, and you got
yeah,
to keep doing that. And that takes a lot of intention. And I think that sometimes as bodybuilders, when you're in it as well, you know, a slight caveat to what we're talking about, we sort of just do it and maybe don't give ourselves credit for what we actually put into the sport as well.
yeah, definitely. I mean, because you do give it, no matter what level you're at, bodybuilding will take over your life, whether you're a first timer or you're going the Olympics. It is, if you're gonna give it your all, it's gonna take over your life for a long period of time. So yeah,
Crazy, crazy. And
yeah.
with your support network, do you have like family and friends that understand it that are outside of the bodybuilding world? How do you sort of deal with that?
Um,
It's a funny one, isn't it?
I mean, they don't get it, no.
Yeah.
I think they support like my mum and I'd say my dad, they they support me because it's something that I want to do. Do they understand it? No. Do they like it? Probably not. But like they came to my show and I think they understand the graph that goes into it now.
Yeah.
And it was nice. Like the two rows I did last year, the regional was in my hometown in Wigan,
Oh,
which was nice because my family could actually come, whereas like they wouldn't have come before. And I think you can't. I think it's a weird sport, isn't it? If you don't, if you've never been to a show and you just see people doing endless hours of cardio and you don't actually know,
yeah.
you can't kind of see the end product.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, a really good turning point for my family to understand the importance of it to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they don't get it, no matter how much I explain it.
Yeah. I definitely try and sort of give that soft education to people around me that maybe they don't need to know what everything that goes into it
No.
because they're interested because they care about you, but they're not interested to the degree that we and other bodybuilders would
Yeah,
be.
yeah, definitely. I think they just don't understand unless you're in that world. And yeah, my mom, I remember my mom, yeah, just it is, yeah, they
Yeah.
don't get it.
And do
That's
you,
it.
do you find that where you work as well? It's a similar scenario.
Yeah,
Mm.
100%. Because like it, they don't get it. And I think it's also what I do as a job is so different to bodybuilding. I think they don't quite understand why I do it. And a lot of people, you got to think like a lot of my patients also don't know that I do it.
Yep, yep.
A lot of them, 95% of them probably don't know. They just see me change very drastically.
China's
Um,
doing this diet again.
yeah, they don't even know. I think they just come in and they're like, "Oh, God, she doesn't look well." Like they don't, I don't know. I don't know. But it's hard. I mean, it's hard for work to be supportive because I just had to get up and crack on and do the same because nothing changed. I have to still, that was the most difficult thing in prep is I am a dentist, that number one, right? I have to be the same dentist that I was peak off season as I am 2 weeks out. Like that, my patients are just as important to me at both periods. And performing at that level is really hard when you don't feel like performing at that level.
Yeah.
So like you could work supportive, no, you just have to crack on and get it done.
Yeah, would you say that that's your sort of overriding mindset in regards to keeping that professional and that level of professionalism in your, industry, just going in and going, I need to be able to be the
I think
dentist.
there's just like no, there was no. I guess like when you step on stage, and you have no alter ego.
Yeah,
When I go to work on prep, so I'm putting that uniform on,
yeah,
and that's me. I'm different now. Like it doesn't matter whether I'm in prep or not. Nothing was going to change.
yeah,
So I didn't even think about like making my diary any less busy or doing anything different because I'm a different person in my head when I'm at work. So this is something I do for me in my spare time. Yeah, okay, I'm a pro, but this is what I also am. And you still have to be able to adopt that role
yeah,
whenever you're 2 weeks out and you don't want to hear someone whinge about toothache.
yeah,
Like because you still got to deal with it. And it was difficult, don't it's very difficult, don't get me wrong. But it's a responsibility that I've chosen to have.
yeah,
And that came way before bodybuilding. So
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. And it's your,
A
it's your whole
profession.
life,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. As well.
How do you find it with, because I work with clients and different people and conversations with other bodybuilders around the sort of food in regards to like work environments and external pressure with, are you eating that? What are you eating? That type of thing. Do you come across that, or are you sort of left to your own devices with that?
Um I just eat my food. I think you do get the comments, yeah, but I'm just like, because I'm a bodybuilder, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna be eating this food. I joke though when I'm like, I eat the same food. They'll be like, "What have you got for your lunch today?" I'm like, the same I had yesterday and the same I had the day before. Like
Sometimes
the
easier.
same food, and yeah, and they don't get it no matter how many times you explain it. But I just laugh about it now. Like it wouldn't bother me. I
Yeah.
think and on you just have to make it kind of work for you as well. I think like in a job like mine, okay, like as a bodybuilder, meal timings are really important, but sometimes it doesn't work like that. Like if you have a job like mine where you're in surgery, I can't just come out and eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like so you do have to accept that if you're not a full-time bodybuilder, then you have to it might not be 100% perfect every day. Doesn't mean everything else can't be perfect though, and it's not really going to hold you back too much if you don't let it.
Yeah, I think that's really relevant actually, like you touched on earlier about like having the odd snack and things, especially in off season. Like it in a prep, you do become quite institutionalized because to
Hmm.
a certain degree, like you've said there, you sort of have to and you make it work. But in off season, it sometimes then can be quite hard to just go, I'm gonna have a meal out or what. But when you start practicing this and you do it and you realize,
Hmm.
you'll probably relate to when you go for a meal with, say, your other half, and one of the first meals in off
Yeah.
season, and you like belly laugh, and
Yeah.
like you create memories, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, I
that's
haven't
what's
done this.
important though, isn't it? And I think I, I'll be honest, like I didn't do that when before I met Ali.
Yeah,
I didn't do in my first off season. I wouldn't eat out.
yeah.
Like I was one of those people. And there's a lot of people out there, but he like made me do it, and that's like the best thing. It's like because he was like, do it, and nothing will happen.
You'll probably feel
Did
better.
it, and nothing will happen. And I think I'm not saying cheat on your diet or whatever. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
But what I am saying is you can live and be a really good bodybuilder as well if you want to, in my opinion. And I think sometimes, for me anyway, if I am a little bit more relaxed around food, I am a bit more relaxed in general. And that kind of less stress looks better on my physique as well, you
such
know.
a yeah, such a valuable lesson in bodybuilding. But I think sometimes you have to do these things to then learn that
You
there is.
do, definitely. It's a learning process, but some people can be regimented 24/7, 365 days a year.
Yeah,
That's not me. Like I'm prepped, don't get me wrong, not a foot wrong, but if I wanted something now, I will have it
yeah,
because you can, and nothing's really going to happen to your physique as long as you don't have 20 of them,
yeah.
you know, and
It's
you're
learning,
sensible
isn't it?
with it.
Mm.
Um, but it is hard, and I think it's just something that you mentally have to push yourself to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah,
It's so nice to just, I found when I first ever sat down, because I had off seasons where I tracked all the way through, when I
yeah.
actually sort of let it up a little bit and went for a meal for the first time without dissecting the menu 50 times before and just sat down and looked at a menu, I was like, wow, I'm just going to order something that I fancy.
I know, and it's hard. Yeah, I think if you, I'm lucky because my Ali forced me to do that.
Yeah,
I think that's hard for you to do yourself,
for
but
sure.
if you just do it, it becomes so much easier. And I don't know, for me, I was happier living my
Yeah,
life like that. And I think most people would be as well, that you're not having to constantly just have a steak when you go out because you think that's the only thing you can have. Because that's literally what
yeah.
I would do, you know?
Yeah.
But if you want a pizza, have it,
Yeah.
you know?
And a
Deep
lot
breath.
of the things as well, if you do go to like a nice restaurant or something, it's a
Yeah.
palate experience and it's not when you're in
Enjoy
off
the
season.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're in off season and your calories get, pretty high, you
Yeah.
can work around it. And it's not even that you're blowing your calories really, but it's
Yeah. It's a
psychologically.
head psychologically. Yeah. But I think if you could miss like years of your life and years of memories by not going, because I did that for first, at my first little off season I did before COVID hit. I wouldn't do anything.
Me
I
too.
missed out on so much stuff. And I think that's memories there in like that's your life that you've missed out on. And just because you're worried about putting a bit too much weight on, it
Yeah.
won't happen.
And of course it goes the other way, doesn't it? I know several people that I can think of straight away that
Yeah.
sort of scared to go for a meal out, and I've been there, it is
Yeah.
you're in your own head, aren't you? Like,
Very
I'm not
much
a
so.
proper bodybuilder if I go for a meal, and it's like, but it's food.
Yeah, I know. It is. It is. I think it just becomes so I think if you're in that mindset, it can become really all consuming.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's only like you who can get yourself out of it.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, touched on about, if you're a professional athlete and that's your job, it's a very different setup, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think so, yeah. But I also think like you gotta do
A lot
whatever
more.
works for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Whatever works for you. If you want to be a robot every day for 365 days and that works for you, and you can categorically give 110% to those 365 days and go for it. But if you're not, then don't, because yeah,
yeah.
because
Even I had Carly Thornton on the pod, and she was
yeah,
saying she's a professional athlete, and as you know, she works in this industry full time, and she was like, the pros have meals out, we all eat because we love food. Like,
yeah, I know that it is. That's and it is. I definitely do
yeah,
because I just think that I'm not wasting this. Yes, bodybuilding is a humongous part of my life,
yeah.
but it isn't my whole life.
And you
You
are
know,
China as well as China the bodybuilder.
yeah, you are, and you've got there's times that you don't want to miss out on, and there's holidays to go on, and there is meals to go out for, and there's just things, social events which are important, are just as important as your bodybuilding career.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And we say no in a prep,
yeah,
sounds
you do say no in a prep, obviously, because that is a sole focus, but you should try and appreciate the social aspect of kind of living a normal life as well.
yeah. It's funny, isn't it? In
Well
prep,
as achieving your goals, because it doesn't mean your goals are any less accessible.
yeah, and less important because they still
Yeah,
are.
perfect. Yeah,
And it's just a sort of shift in priorities in regards to, you're prioritizing the memories, the happiness, and
yeah,
doing those things that you, like you say, wouldn't do in a prep. But I always find it's crazy. Like when you start prep, and it sounds like you're the same as me, the tunnel vision just literally,
it's just like bang. Yeah,
yeah. And you're like,
yeah,
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 it's crazy. And I don't think we sometimes give credit to ourselves for how much we put into it. Like I touched on earlier, because we just do the do. We're like, well,
yeah,
this is the choice, we're just doing the do. But you're putting a hell of a lot in. And I think that sometimes giving
yeah.
yourself a bit of recognition and then in the off season going, I can just have a nice time sometimes.
I know because you do need a bit of a chill because
Yeah.
prep is so hard. I remember like when my last prep, like I was getting up, I was doing like an hour's cardio before work. I had 20,000 steps to do a day at one point.
Oh,
And I'm like got a job where I sit down all day. I was working a nine to five, then training. I was like running around this park on my lunch break. Well, not running, but what
but like
to try and get my steps in, and then doing laps of my surgery, honestly, like, and then you think to yourself, yeah, I deserve a break
Yeah.
after that. But there's no box on prep I
Yeah.
wouldn't have ticked, no matter how hard it was or how, whether my day had to be a 16-hour day or 18-hour day, I would have ticked it, you know?
Yeah. And you're not really sleeping much anyway,
No,
are you? You know what I mean?
no, no. Why do we do it to ourselves?
I know it's so funny. Like when you actually voice it, you know, like when you talk to someone outside of bodybuilding, you're like, this is actually pretty bizarre.
No, I know. I remember I would go at work, finish my last patient before lunch, literally spend my entire lunch break doing steps,
Yeah.
eating, like sit down on a park bench to eat, carry on going, and then walk back, then carry on for the afternoon, then go to train. Honest, I'm just like, you're nuts.
Yeah.
It works. So, yeah,
And it's good that you've got your partner that completely gets it as well, because there's never
yeah.
any questions there then.
No, I mean, he was on prep as well at the same time. So, yeah, it was hard.
How was
It was
that?
hard.
Like, did it? Because I find that I think sometimes people feel like it pushes them apart, but other
Mhm.
people it actually brings them together.
It was hard, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, it was hard. I think what was difficult was, for me anyway, was it was just like it was just trying to get everything in, because he's an online coach who works for himself and works from home.
Yeah,
And I was like getting up doing my cardio and then being out all day until like, 8, 9 o'clock at night. We weren't spending any time together, like whatsoever. And then you're not sleeping. So
yeah, the restless, aren't you?
it was really hard. And bless him, like Ali prioritizes me in my last prep, prioritized me a lot, because like my goal was big, and he did really, really help me. I probably wouldn't have got my pro card without him and helping me out. Um, and that's, for me, was super, super important. But I think it's incredibly hard, because bodybuilding is so, it's a selfish sport.
Yeah.
In a relationship, you kind of have to consider other people,
Mm-hmm.
don't you?
Yeah,
And so it's a bit of a, yeah, it can really work against each other.
yeah. Unless you, I guess the
Unless
current there is having communication.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But it is hard. There's no getting around it being hard.
Yeah,
Sustain a relationship and prep.
yeah. And as bodybuilders, we're like, it's quite hard to go. Actually, this is really fucking hard. Like because you just keep pushing, and it's like you don't
Yeah.
want to moan or you don't want to show weakness, but then if you're with the right person, you can go, actually, this is really fucking hard today.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's right. I think having that ability to vent is really important on prep. But also not too much, because I think if you vent too much, you just start flicking into a negative mindset, don't you? And
Yeah, yeah.
caving to that, how crap you feel.
Yeah,
Like,
because you're never gonna feel good, like really
no,
good in a prep, you know?
no, no. I just think it's like we had to be mega organized, because like we had a treadmill. We were lucky enough that we had a treadmill in the house, but I was like, I'd go on the treadmill first and he would go on the treadmill second.
Shift work.
Yeah. But it was like I had to be on the treadmill for this time because I had to be off for this time because he had to be on for this time. And I think that kind of like militant nature. Um, but yeah, it's intense. Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
and as well, you know, if a bit like you touched on there, if you go into it being too negative, you almost manifest that it's going to continue getting more negative.
Yeah, I don't know. I find that the more that you talk, if you're feeling crap, the more that you talk it out loud, kind of you act up to it as well. Whereas if you're just like, I'm not tired today, I'm not tired, I'm not tired.
I'm fine.
You trying to tell your brain that it's not true, you know? Um, so yeah.
This is what Rob, I'd imagine you've sort of got that
Yeah.
him because he really does try and plow into that. And also as well, you know, maybe we could talk about your why as to what you're trying to achieve, where that stems from, because that again is very important, isn't it, to lead this
Yeah.
lifestyle?
I think your why is really, really important. And having some kind of emotional driver as to why you're doing what you're doing is, especially in this game when it is very, very hard at times, because there are times that I don't know, I rephrase that. There was no time I wanted to quit, because I wanted my goal so badly. But if your goal isn't big enough and you don't want it enough, you will cave to wanting to quit because it is really hard. Um, and yeah, I just think remembering your why all the time and why you're doing what you're doing is super important. I think for me, to when I was getting my pro card, because I'd struggled really bad, well, not really bad, but quite badly with my mental health before I started bodybuilding, which is what I touched on earlier.
Yeah.
In my head, which wasn't true, but in my head, if I got that pro card, it was like, I've beaten you.
Yeah.
That's what I told myself, that I had really overcome what I'd struggled with before. And that was enough to push me. I visualized getting that pro card before every set and literally every top set for a long time, you know, but it's worth it. It's worth it because when that moment happens, it's worth it.
Yeah. And would you say that that has stayed as your why to continue doing that?
I don't
Beat.
know. Ali asked me that the other day. Like, what's your why do you want to do what you want to do now? Um,
It's quite a funny question sometimes, isn't
it
it?
is hard. It is hard. I think and we touched on literally just last night. Like I said, and my answer was with every other sport that I've done in my life, I've always I've always attacked it like 110%, but I've never quite achieved what I wanted to with it. But I think this time, and whether it's from like a fault of my own or whatever, it just didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. But I think now, like my goal is I want to try and get to the Olympia. I would love that. That's my next goal, which is obviously the goal of every pro.
Amazing.
Um, but I think now I've got the opportunity to take a sport to where I believe that I can take it for me. So yeah,
It's crazy, isn't it? Olympia.
it is. I know, yeah, I would love that. That is my next goal. But it's a goal of every pro, and you've got to stand on that stage and see how you fare. But I will keep going for it until I get it. So
And this is where the things like the posing practice, you've then
yeah,
gone, okay, so this is probably the one thing that I really do need to work on.
definitely.
It's committing that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think you can't hide at any level really, but definitely at the top level, you can't hide anything. So your weaknesses will always come out on stage. And posing is definitely not one of my strengths at the moment. But I guess you hard work will turn your weaknesses into strengths.
Yeah.
And it's just about facing them. It's just about facing them and not shying away from burying your head in the sand with stuff that you don't want to do.
Yeah,
Because
because
if you do that, especially in off season, because you're like, oh my God, stage is so far away, I don't need to pose. But it's so important. It's so important. And to get confident with it as well.
yeah, because posing is hard.
Yeah.
Like it maybe looks when I similar to what you described, when I first watched a bodybuilding show, I was like, oh, that's nutrition and training. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about the posing.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh well, they're just going around and doing poses. That's cool. And then when I did posing practice with a coach, I was like, bloody hell, this is like militant.
It is. I know. And I think there's so much. It's not even just like the posing practice as well. It's like you can pose, but it's being able to pose on stage. There's a big difference. Like, and I think that comes with confidence. And that's a big reason why I signed up with Rob is to like kind of improve my confidence and stuff and the way I talk to myself. I think having that ability to shine on stage comes from within, doesn't it? Like you can pose perfectly, but it's the ability to be able to shine on stage and kind of show that. And that takes in my opinion, takes a little bit of inner work to be able to execute that.
Yeah, when I judge at shows, the people that do have stage presence,
Yeah,
it's a night and day difference. You may have seen it shows where
yeah, yeah,
people walk on and they look down and
yeah,
then they're not even almost there and it doesn't look like they're enjoying it. And it looks very different when you have someone come out and they light up the stage because,
yeah.
whether
Definitely.
that's you step into an alter ego or whether that is genuine confidence, it doesn't really matter. It's what you look like to the
Yeah,
judges.
exactly. And I think that's definitely that was my downfall when I was competing last time. So you just got to work on it, just keep working on it. And like at the moment, literally Emma Hyman was like, just watch videos of people who are good at posing all the time.
Yeah,
And it is, and I never really thought about that before. Like I've watched like shows on YouTube, whatever, but I've
yeah,
not actually concentrate on how they pose. But that's massively helped me, like
I
being
agree.
able to, because obviously they started somewhere, and they got to improve like that as well. So kind of just find someone that you like posing and try and kind of copy what they do,
Yeah.
like with their sass. I don't mean copy their pose. I mean like copy their kind of sass.
And almost get
And
into
learn
that.
it, get into that kind of groove, which just takes patience and time.
Yeah, it's like visual, like you said, visualizing getting a pro card. It's like visualizing your
Visualizing that, yeah, and making it just as important as the training. But I think when you start, it can feel like there's so many things. Even now, it feels like there's a million and one things to improve on and do.
yeah.
It's just about not getting overwhelmed with it and just making sure that you do prioritize it in some way and
With
make it
your
part of your
posing
week
practice
schedule.
in prep, do you have like a certain amount of posing you have to do, or do you just do it every day?
I At the start, I was doing it like I'd say like twice a week at the beginning of prep.
Yeah,
And then it's quite difficult because like the gym that I trained at didn't have anywhere you could pose,
it's
didn't
so
have a
annoying, isn't
posing
it?
room, and it did make a difference really. So I was kind of doing it in the gym in the mirror, but like there was no studio or anything, so everyone was just watching you. I think when you're not confident, that was quite, for me anyway, that was really hard to do.
Yeah, yeah.
In the back end of prep, we actually joined, me and my partner joined another gym which had a room which we used for posing. So I was a bit more militant with it then and did it literally after every training session. And then like as it got closer to the show, I was doing it every morning. Just I think when it became part of my routine was like, right, cardio, pose,
Do
you
it.
know, just go do it. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely, I think in my next prep, it will be something I'll be putting in more than I did last time.
Yeah.
Just to make it more nailed and more natural, because I think you're only going to get, for me anyway, I'm only going to be able to be relaxed, more relaxed on stage if I'm really confident, super, super confident with what I'm doing. That just will come with practice.
So you're sort of drip feeding it in now and then
Yeah,
getting.
yeah, drip feeding it. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Yes.
it's so funny, isn't it? In a prep, like when you're in it, you're in it, and then you have an off season. And if
Yeah,
you're, practicing things that we've touched on today, having nice memories, meals out, various other things, training performance being a big thing,
yeah.
you get close to another prep and you're like, oh God, I'm going back
I
into a
know,
prep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what that when Cal was like, "You're competing this year," I was like, "I don't feel mentally prepared for this."
Wait, what?
I was like, "Sorry, what?" I felt like I had another 6 months.
Yeah.
But no, I think prep's really thinking that you're going into a prep or being in prep. It's very, very good for giving you structure within the entirety of your life. I don't know about you, but like beginner prepping, especially, like I'm definitely more tidier at home. Like yeah, everything's more militant. Your life becomes more militant. And I think it forces that kind of like militant routine, doesn't it? So
I
if
definitely
if
think
you
it
could
makes
sustain that throughout off season, life will be so much more productive. But I haven't nailed that one yet.
practice makes perfect. It just feels
Definitely.
like I think in prep because you've got so many things to do, you have to be militant, don't
Yeah,
you?
you do have to be militant. Yeah. So I just think that kind of like translates into the rest of your life. Well, it does with me anyway, at the
And
same time.
I find as well it almost like I guess there's no one's going to invite you out and stuff like this. Well, people
Yeah.
around me now know if I'm in a prep, they don't even bother. So like I've got nothing to negotiate with. I just can immerse in my day to day and it
Yeah.
becomes
Yeah. Yeah.
and I quite like that. Like you say, and then off season you're like, whoa,
No,
when
I've got time now. I know I've got choice. I've got choice to food, and like it all becomes a bit overwhelming at the start.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Did you
Mm.
find that when you reversed out this time compared to the first one, because your calories went up quicker and you had cow and you're really
Yeah.
responding to him as a coach, it was much easier to just crack on?
It was, but I was also I think my last prep, it mentally floored me a lot. Like I think I'd it was obviously a lot more a toned figure prep versus a figure prep is different. And I think from a physique perspective, I felt better, but mentally, because I pushed myself so hard for a long, 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 long period of time, I was a little bit flawed mentally. So with Rob, I came out of that, and it took a while to kind of recover mentally from that, I guess. And again, it's like one of those things where anyone with anyone competing, when you get that goal, and it's like you're like, oh,
Whoa.
what next? Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And especially when the goal is so big and like we've wanted it for so long, when you've got it, it's like,
100%.
it's that kind of like post-show thing, but I couldn't quite get my head around it. And that's where working with Rob helped really well. But from a food perspective, yes, it definitely helped my physique, but my mind took a long time to recover, I guess, from the prep.
Yeah. And adjust.
To adjust, yeah, to adjust. And also, I couldn't quite get my head around what had happened. Like, I couldn't, like, think, because it'd been something that I dreamed of for a long time. When it happened, I was like, I can't quite understand that this is actually true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
IFBB
that
Pro.
took me a long time to come to terms with that, genuinely. I remember going back to the gym, the first drive back to the gym, I just cried in the car. I was like, I've done this drive so many times, thinking this is my goal, and now I've got it. And now why am I crying? And I remember ringing Rob Blatty in the gym saying, why am I crying?
I've done it, but I'm
I've
crying.
done it, but why am I crying? And he was like, you just calm me down about it. But it's a lot. I think that he said that it happens a lot with people who achieve big goals, and like it's like, oh, that's it now. That's it.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Yeah.
I think as well, it sounds like you're doing it for the right reasons. And when
Yeah.
you have that hard time mentally, when you first got into bodybuilding,
Yeah.
and you get into this sport for the right reasons for your own internal growth, self-growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When you reach a massive goal like that, like IFBB Pro, you can't really get much better than that. Then it's like little old me has done that. Wow.
Yeah.
Like,
I couldn't, yeah, it was massively, I couldn't, even though it was something I wanted so badly, and I there was no question that it wasn't going to happen in my head, that I could not understand it happening. I couldn't quite fathom it would happened at all. I literally had taken, so what my original plan was, I was meant to do the Wigan the Wigan regional, and then 2 weeks later I was meant to do British finals. But then, so I'd taken like 2 weeks off work. But then Cal was like, oh, let's do Finland. It's in the middle. So the reason I'm saying that is because I'd already booked off a week off work after the Finland show. But thank God I did, because I literally spent a week sleeping
yeah, yeah,
after it. I think all the adrenaline and everything
yeah,
just coming down off everything that had happened. And I think whether you're doing like a little regional or anything, if you've got a big goal, just take a bit of time off after, because mentally you need to come down off kind of like that high.
yeah.
Um,
I think that sometimes people sort of think, oh, take some time off for peak week, but actually, I find myself you're so on it in peak week, you're
yeah.
almost better sticking to your normal routine and having, like you say, that for that dump after the show.
Yeah, because it is a crash. I don't know, like I had a massive crash. I remember going in trying to train, and I was like, absolutely no way is this happening.
What is going
It's
on?
not happening. Like people talk about all these pumps, like amazing pump they're getting post show. I was like, I can't even do anything.
No,
Like,
literally, you're like, what is wrong
no,
with me?
I know, yeah. So, but yeah, I work peak week as well. Like I worked peak week. I think I was competing on the Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, and I was working on the Wednesday.
Doing the
2 days
kick.
off, something like that. Yeah, yeah, before.
And you said that you do online coach as well.
Yeah, I do. And I now coach as well, part time.
Yeah.
So hopefully in time can drop my dentistry down a little bit more and do a bit more coaching. But now it's like I'm super busy doing both at the moment. So yeah.
So if anyone has listened today, and of course, if they resonate and may want to follow you on Instagram, or if they wanted to inquire about coaching, is Instagram the best place?
Yeah, just on my Instagram handle, China Green IFBB Pro. So yeah.
Cool. So I'll put that in the description as well. And before we wrap up, could you also say happy birthday to Zara for me? Because I'm going to release this episode on her birthday.
Oh, great. Happy birthday, Zara.
Oh, thank you, China.
No
So this will
problem.
go live on the 24th of April. And of course, if anyone's listened and you want to share it on your stories or get in touch with China, then Instagram is the best place. But thank you so much for your
Thank you so much for having me on. No, I really appreciate it. It was great. All right.
second podcast in the bag, China.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad you left that till the end.
Love it.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. No
See you
problem.
later.